everybody. Last session of the day, really exciting, and I'm frankly quite excited to be seated next to this gentleman. He is, of course, Doug Burnham, the Interior Secretary. Doug, I just want to kick off by asking you to walk us through where we are today, because essentially what we're seeing, at least so far, is President Trump's blockade of Iranian ports working, and the potential for a ceasefire now between Israel and Lebanon, something everybody's been worrying about. So how quickly is this all going to be over?
Well, Hádli, great to be with you. Always fantastic to be with you, to be someone with you. You understand the global markets. So fun to have this conversation. But I would step back even further. Where are we right now? I mean, let's just realize what a remarkable moment we are. I mean, 6 weeks since this current conflict began, and then here we are with the United States, now the world's largest oil exporter, the world's largest producer of natural gas, the world's largest LNG producer. 4 years ago, we had the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The U.S. has now displaced 2/3 of Russian gas in Europe, and then we're doing that, so we're providing LNG to the world, and the gas price for natural gas in America is below where it was when we started 6 weeks ago. So the whole idea of energy dominance by President Trump, his strategy is working, which is sell energy to our friends and allies, and have produced so much of it that that they don't have to buy from people that are waging war against us, that they don't have to buy from people that are terrorizing the world, and then you end up with low prices at home, so prosperity at home, peace abroad, and then you have the power of energy diplomacy. So President Trump is doing things that have never been done before because it started with energy policy. Energy policy is national security, and so from that standpoint, I would say everything, the transformational moment that we're having right now, and whether it's Venezuela, whether it's the Middle East, is remarkable, but it begins with understanding and getting energy policy right, and President Trump really has energy policy right.
Tell me this, 20 million barrels, or 20% of the world's oil, I should say, coming out of the Gulf Arab countries. How quickly are we going to open up that strait and get that oil flowing?
Well, I think as you noted, I mean, the blockade is working. And of course, the other thing I'd say when you take a look at the geopolitics of the situation, again, what you understand well is there are shifting strengths within the alliances. We still have all of our allies, but some people have stood up. And I'd say the one thing that coming out the backside of this is, I mean, wow, the Gulf states. I mean, whether it's UAE, Saudi, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar. I mean, all of these countries that immediately became under assault from their neighbor is understanding the importance of a U.S. relationship, and the U.S. understands and appreciates deeply, with deep gratitude, the support that we've had from those countries. So again, I think working together, obviously the blockade, which allows ships to flow out from our Gulf state partners, but not from Iran. Again, brilliant strategy, U.S. Navy executing on it. And I feel like the U.S. is in a very strong position right now. And again, you can't talk about all this without talking about Venezuela, because Venezuela, here we are. We had to move on quickly from that, but we took a sanctioned adversary, and in 45 minutes, President Trump turned it into a strategic ally, and now their production up close to 50%. I mean, they've hit 1.2 million barrels a day, 150 million barrels of oil coming out of Venezuela onto the market at world market prices. A lot of that now flowing to the United States that wasn't flowing before. It's just remarkable the change that's happening right now. So I mean, dialing back and looking at the big picture a little bit, you'd have to say that we're in an amazing point in history right now.
Tell me this, we have two competing narratives. If you're over at the IMF meetings, we're talking about the potential for a global recession. They're talking about the idea, as is the IEA, the International Energy Agency, that we're not going to be able to recover in terms of oil and gas prices for as long as 2 years of production even. Are they wrong?
I'm not a pundit, and I'm not going to criticize other people that are pundits, but I would just say the track record here of people predicting all the things that they thought were going to happen every day during the last 38 or 39 or 40 days of this conflict generally have turned out to be wrong within a day or two. And so I'm looking at the big picture, and I think the big picture of the fundamentals. I mean, here in the United States, we've got, we celebrated Tax Day yesterday, which normally was like sort of a big X on the calendar, not a day you'd celebrate. But when you've got 63 million Americans that have paid into Social Security their whole life that are not paying tax on Social Security. You've got 25 million people that are now not paying tax on overtime. They're incented to work. When I was a kid growing up in a small town in North Dakota, I couldn't wait to get past 40 hours because then you got into overtime. You got that time and a half. I mean, that was great. But now you're into that overtime and then you're not paying taxes on that. No tax on tips. That's averaging about $7,000 per filer. In terms of deductions on tips. So whether it's lower taxes, massively lower regulations, I mean, what we're doing with the ESA, NEPA, what Lee Zeldin is doing, what Chris Wright is doing, what everybody across the National Energy Dominance Council is doing, I mean, massively cutting the amount of red tape, and then record amounts of foreign investment coming into the country. There's no recession coming to the United States. I mean, that's one prediction I will make because the fundamentals are super strong. And as I noted at the beginning, natural gas, which is an energy superpower, costs less now today in the U.S. than it did 6 weeks ago.
So when Fatty Birol essentially saying that we haven't even begun to see the severity of the price increase on oil production. On oil.
No, I'm not saying that. I mean, what I'm saying is that I think that there are, when you have a price signal that goes out, which is, hey, prices are higher, there's a gap to fill, people may have to fill their reserves, that's when the private sector companies, all say, hey, maybe this is a time for us to start, getting more production going, but we're seeing that production's coming up. I mean, last month was the highest it's ever been. It'll be higher again next month. I mean, we've got a great industry here, and we know that they can dial it up. And then what we're doing with regulation, or what we're doing, things like whether it's the Jones Act, we have other tools in the toolkit in terms of potential waivers that we could be providing right now to get more production out of the U.S. But I'm very confident that we're going to see supply continue to climb. Coming out of this, and particularly with the straits open to our Gulf partners, then supply-demand is going to come back in balance again.
Tell me this, you've just gotten off a phone call with some of America's top producers. This was a call that was leaked, but walk us through what they had to say.
Well, it was a great call. Chris Wright and I spent 45 minutes I think in the last hour, we were just on this call with a couple dozen of the top, the global multinationals, but some of the top U.S. Oil and gas producers from around all the basins. So Marcellus, the Permian, the Bakken, and the North Slope of Alaska. And again, across that group, these guys are all they're all leaning in because they're getting a price signal that, hey, there's a time to invest. They had some great suggestions and ideas about things that we could do, on a temporary basis to help cut some red tape and speed things. And they had some, super complimentary things to say, which is great to hear for our teams that have been working so hard. When we took office a year ago, or when President Trump, took office as president, and then the cabinet came in, one of the things that we inherited in Interior, which is responsible for the oil and gas drilling permitting on federal land, was a backlog of 5,600 applications to drill. Some of those had been sitting there for years. We've knocked that backlog down by 91%. We've almost eliminated the whole thing. So to have multiple of these leaders say, hey, it used to take us years to get a permit from the federal government, and now it's taking months. I mean, that's rewarding to hear because it's about speeding up the flow of capital investment, which again, when we've got energy as a component of the everything, the car you drive, the clothes that you wear, the food that you eat. I mean, it's a component of everything. To turn on these lights to heat this building or air condition it. So when we get energy policy right, that's what makes things more affordable. And we've absolutely got it. We were working on the supply side. I mean, which is again.
So they're happy with permitting, but what were they saying is their greatest concern or challenge?
Well, I think they just continue to point out places where they're like thrilled on everything we've done, but hey, here's things that you could do more, and we want to do that. I mean, I view people that are willing to write a check for a lease sale, develop with 100% of their money. They go in, they take all the risk of doing the development, then they send a check to the federal government for a royalty portion. They're sending money to us. They're paying for the lease, and they're sending us royalties. They're the customer. Our job is to make sure that they do that sustainably and smartly, but their shareholders look after them, our regulators look after them, and we add it all up. I mean, American energy industry produces cleaner, safer, smarter than anywhere else in the world. This idea that somehow that if we shut down doing everything in America, where we don't cut a tree, we don't graze for cattle, we don't do any mining in this country, we get out of the oil and gas business. If you do we're going to stop doing all of that, but somehow that's going to be good for the global environment. No, it's actually, then we're just handing it over to countries that either A, want to extort us, like with critical minerals, or they don't have child labor laws, they don't have reclamation laws, they don't have an EPA, and look at the actual results. People that care about the environment should be insisting that the United States produce, every electron, every ounce of liquid fuel, because that's in the end the best thing for the world and for global peace, and it's the best thing for the environment.
Tell me this, when you talk about our allies, we're seeing France and the United Kingdom talking about reopening the Strait of Hormuz. How they're going to do that without the input of the United States is a big question in my mind, but they're meeting on Friday to do that. In your mind, where are they today in terms of their interstate situation? Because the United Kingdom is truly suffering.
Well, yes, and it's remarkable to me that we can have, our traditional World War II, allies. France and England have, strong industrial companies like Germany all get energy policy just so dramatically wrong. Germany went down this path of their own green dream, the green fantasy, and spent $500 billion. That's what was all in on their wind and solar dream. And they produce about 20% less electricity than they used to. It costs 3 times as much, and they're deindustrializing, and then it's intermittent. You can't count on it.
And for the United Kingdom, this is actually a national security issue. It's
a huge national security. The UK today gets 30% of their electricity from undersea cables that you could already have a foreign power has already got a mine put on one of those. If you want to take down the UK on day one, one little mine, boom, there goes the electricity. Is anybody going to build a data center, that produces that? We're in a world where for the first time in history, you can take a kilowatt of electricity and not just produce light and heat, but you can produce intelligence. You can manufacture intelligence. And believe me, I spent 30 years in tech. I was in a meeting yesterday morning getting the latest updates of how we're applying AI, into the procedures across this vast enterprise called Interior, where we've got, 500 million acres of land, 700 million acres of subsurface, 3 billion of offshore. We started out a year ago with 65,000 employees. If it was a standalone company, it'd be the largest balance sheet in the world. We didn't even know all the different processes we have, but I saw one process where it was a small process in IT where they were going to get a bid and have a team of 12 skilled people work for 2 years on a $3 million budget to try to fix this one IT problem. And we had one guy who was home on the weekend shrinking his wife's clothes because he was trying to do laundry for her while the baby was crying. And he set up an agentic entity on a leading AI product to do the work that was being bid out to take 2 years and $3 million. And in a course of several hours for a $182 charge, all the code got written by the AI machine.
I want to ask you about data.
It's not like, we're going to get a 10% improvement in coding. That AI codes better than 99% of the coders in America. It is so transformational that I would say just about every CEO I've ever met does not understand the implications of what this can mean for problem solving and what it could mean for us for further speeding up. Yeah, we've gone from years to months on permitting. But we have other problems where we could speed it up and make it even stronger and faster and better and more precise, and protecting the environment, solving cancer.
I want to ask you about this specifically because obviously the United States has been a big proponent of Gulf countries setting up data centers, but there are big questions now if bombs and missiles can reach them, whether or not that would be a good idea. Is the U.S. still backing the Gulf countries, specifically the UAE and Saudi Arabia, to do so?
Well, I think every country is going to want to have some sovereign stake in manufacturing intelligence. And I would say that if you look at the Gulf states actually have got quite a strong record, but of course many of them are well equipped with U.S.-made defense systems, and whether those are Patriots or other things. They've done very well, even though they've got a close neighbor. But that was another reason to take literally a terrorist regime. I mean, I don't even think of Iran anymore as a traditional country. I think of it like a terrorist machine, a terror group that had control of an oil field, and then they were holding 90 million people hostage. I mean, it's more like North Korea, where you've got a group of folks that are believe in things like eliminating Israel, eliminating the United States, but they're not. But as a side deal, they're kind of trying to run a country. It's not like the way we would think of a normal country because of the way the control systems. But that now that the amount of the capability of them to continue to wage war on their neighbors or on the world has been seriously degraded in the last 38 days. And that.
So you think those Dubai hotel bookings are going to get back on track pretty quick?
Well, I think it's
Q4.
I think again, it's weird when we think about this thing as a war. When we lost more planes in training missions last year than we lost in a 6-week war. I mean, it is like the expectation was apparently that you could convert a country in 45 minutes like we did in Venezuela. And so, wow, it's taking you guys 6 weeks to change the world. It's like, no, it was a 6-week plan and we're right on track. So again, we're living in remarkable times. And it's not just the fact that the world is waking up to the fact that the energy policy is not just going to drive economies, it's also driving the next wave of capital investment. Because I'm telling you, no one is going to put advanced manufacturing, no one's going to put distribution, no one is going to have whatever the new version of higher education is. You're not going to go and do that someplace where electricity costs 3 or 4 times more than it does in a next door that has a different set of policies, because electricity is going to be the key factor in site selection for the next with T's, the trillions of dollars of CapEx that's being deployed around the world. The 5 hyperscalers in America when the last time you and I talked, their number was 400 billion. 400 billion for next year. 5 companies, 400 billion of CapEx. Those companies, several of them have already announced that next year they're going from 90 billion to 180 billion. So just that group of 5 U.S. companies could be doing 800 billion in CapEx around power generation and AI. So it's like, I know we're all kind of focused on whatever the news feeds us every day, but pull back a little bit, people, because man, we are at a transformative point. The U.S. is navigating through this, I think, in a quite brilliant way. The things that we need to do, though, is we need to generate more electricity. More energy abundance raises the quality of life for people on the planet, and we want to be able to do it for, again, we want to do it for prosperity at home, but we want to do it for peace in the world. Energy abundance equals energy diplomacy, equals a better future.
So oil prices at $3 by summer.
Well, I think we want to separate oil prices from gas prices, but and again, I'm not going to be a pundit on pricing, because a lot of things, markets will be markets, and they'll figure the thing out. But I think that, again, we're in such a strong position in the United States, and it is and we're doing everything we can every day. We got whether it's Jared Agan and everybody at the National Energy Dominance Council that are doing great work within the White House. But I mean, our job is to listen to the people that are producing the supply that we need to change the world, and then helping them do it. And when they do that, everybody that's listening or here today, if you're an American citizen, if you're a taxpayer, then your balance sheet is quite healthy. We're trying to get you a return on your balance sheet and do it in a way that's smart and sustainable, going forward. Because and I know this is a governor of a state that became, one of the largest energy producing states. We were able to do that. We were able to have the highest GDP in the country. And oh, by the way, we were always in the top 3 of cleanest air, cleanest water, best soil health, fabulous fishing, great hunting. I mean, everything that you would want to have in the outdoors and do that, we were able to do all that. And partly you're able to do that because you got the revenue and the capital and the ingenuity and the innovation. Innovation is what made America great. Regulation is killing Europe. It has killed entire industries. They tried to use it to kill things in America like mining and oil and gas, but it's coming back, and the brightest days for this country are ahead. But it's going to be driven by innovation, not by regulation.
Mr. Secretary, they're blinking a light at us, so I think that means we have to wrap it up.
Right.
Thank you so much for joining us. They're blinking.
Yes.